Welcome to Explore, Explain, Highlights. In this Highlights package, we'll be looking at Season 4, Episode 7, with our guest, Amanda Shendruk, discussing the project Climate Change in Movies.
That a lot of people don't understand or think about or care about, maybe, the distinction between news and opinion, because it's not always that simple. That basically the news section tells you what happened, as you said, and the opinion section offers ways to sort of think about what happened or how to respond to or understand or different
what it all
perspectives.
means.
Yeah. And traditionally, and at the Post, they are kept quite separate because it's a way to signal that the reporting on the news side is meant to be unbiased. It's meant to be independent and not influenced in any way by, a perspective or a political agenda or something that you might see on the opinion side. And so coming from the news side, being somebody where it was drilled into me for my entire career thus far, that I should have no opinion, no outward opinion on this, that I shouldn't, that the reporting needs to be unbiased, that there should be no take or angle or anything. And then on my first piece, it's an entirely different ballgame. Now I'm being told, well, what do you think about this? What should people think? What should we do about this? Those kind of things. And while I enjoy it was a hard switch, and I'm still in the process of that switch, but because I was, sort of trained one way, to now flip to the other way has been interesting and more challenging than I expected. Well, I'm very interested in climate reporting and covering climate change and the climate crisis and sustainability. But I also find that it's a difficult topic to get people interested in. There's a lot of jargon. There's a lot of, important science and stuff to understand. And so it can be tough to, even if the reporting is really great, it can be tough to engage an audience. And then on top of it, a lot of the reporting is very, rightfully scary, because a lot of scary stuff is happening, but it turns a lot of people off reading about climate change. However, it's the most important thing globally right now, and the biggest challenge that we have to face as an entire world. So I am very interested in trying to find different ways, I suppose, to talk about the topic. So find sort of side doors or back doors into the conversation about climate change, because really climate change can be, it's not just a story about the the weather. It's a story about everything in our lives at this point. So when I think about ideas, I think, honestly, I can even just pick a random thing and say, well, how do windows have anything to do with climate change? What's the story there? Or books or movies. And so I just thought, well, is there something to think about climate change with movies? And because I'm a data person, I immediately went, I wonder if anyone has data on this. What data would there even be? And for me, I don't enjoy pieces that are unnecessarily long. I enjoy a good long piece if it should be long. But the type of work I like doing is to cut everything to just its real essence, to get to the point. And so it's a style that I enjoy. But it's also, every decision I made was about, how does this further the argument, or how does this back up the argument? And so we'll probably talk about it later, but in the data section, for example, there's tons and tons of data behind that I didn't use, that I would have loved to use. And there's other data set that I collected that I didn't end up using. And it was because this piece wasn't about, hey, here is an interesting analysis of doom and gloom apocalypse movies. It was about using the data as a tool in the argument.
The data goes back from 1966, with the first movie marked out as Our Man Flint, which I know of but I can't remember at all, right the way through to 2023. Now, you expanded that from 60, or sorry, you commissioned Michael to expand that from 61 to 100. Was that just an arbitrary number, or did you suspect that there were just a few more movies missing and he ended up being 100 and a very nice, neat number?
Yeah, I was a little ticked off that it ended up being 100 actually, because those clean numbers make you think that it's too precise, it's not right.
Yes, yeah.
But it just ended up being 100. I was
Right.
desperately trying to find another so it could at least be 101. But that's just where we ended up. So what happened was Michael had in that first article that he published 61 or something, and then he published online later on maybe 20 more or something.
Right.
So I kind of aggregated all of his findings, and then together we added about 20 more. And we did that by, I just scoured every blog, movie site, IMDb, everything I could possibly find where people were talking about climate movies or categorizing climate movies or anything like that. And like you said, TV series as well. And so I should be very clear that this data is very imprecise, and it's very subjective. And, we put those boundaries on it, that it was something where climate change was a significant plot point or allegory or I can't remember.
Backdrop. Yeah.
Backdrop. Yeah. But there is probably a good argument to be made for any of these movies not being on the list, or any other movie to be on the list. Like it's difficult to categorize that, but we did the best we could to just find everything possible. It was the best way I could figure out. I didn't know any other way to. I combed through the climate tag on IMDb. So we grouped as many together as we could.
And I wondered if, by extension, that was perhaps where the choice for having little video clips was included. They could have been still frames, I guess. Was there a sort of weighing up of whether to go still, dynamic in those, and 3, 5, 10 movies? What was the sort of thought process for that?
Well, at the top where they're all just little looping GIFs, but at the top I wanted them to be not stills, because so something I'm learning in the opinions department is that there are all kinds of different ways to make an argument, and the one that I most prefer is data, backed up, reasoning. But emotion plays a really big role, and those movies they kind of bring in a more emotive aspect. Because they show the destruction right away, and yes, they grab attention, but they also say we're doing a piece about movies, and they go, oh, there's the earth getting destroyed, kind of like a little punch. So it's a different type of tool in my argument toolbox, I suppose. 3, because I don't think it's a good number. I mean, 5 is too many, 1 is too few, and with the other clips, those ones were, again, it's they're famous scenes, and it's easier. It's just one of those things where it's easier to show than write. I could write a couple sentences about how Will and Grace impacted the discussion around same-sex marriage, but if I just show that scene that a lot of people remember from Will and Grace where they're kissing.
Thank you for joining us for this Explore, Explain highlights episode. As always, the full episode is available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. We hope to see you again soon on another episode of Explore, Explain.